Bloodwolf Arts Studio. Unleash the artist within.
Okay. Welcome to Bloodwolf Arts Studio, and I am your host, Mr. Moonlight. So today I have another guest with me, my friend Robyn. She's just barely written a book a little while ago, and she's got it right here. I'm probably gonna have it flash it up on the screen somewhere just so you can see it really close. It's a really beautiful book. Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and we'll start from there.
I'm Robyn Maria. I am a jack of lots of trades.
Okay.
I do lots of things in my life, but the newest venture that I've had is writing this book.
Okay.
And it essentially gives an overview of a little bit of my life leading up to being placed in the foster care system at 14 years old until I was 18 years old. A little bit about what that experience was like, and then what I've created in my life since that experience.
Okay, so you're saying you talked a little bit about this. Your book has been essentially your life experience story of what it was like growing up, where you came from. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I was raised in California, born and raised in California most of my life, and had parents that had struggles of their own, and and my mother was a young mother, and so she, had some growing up to do while she raised her children, right? And then there was a lot of things that she chose in that, and some of those things she chose led me to being put into foster care at 14.
Wow.
And so I spent 4 years in foster care in 6 different homes.
Wow, that's a lot of moving.
It is a lot of moving. It is a lot of moving. It's moving more than once a year on average.
Sheesh.
But that was my life up to that point anyway. Growing up in campgrounds because we didn't have a home to live in, or living up in Mount Shasta in an abandoned cabin for almost 2 years.
Wow.
Because we didn't have a home until someone found out that we were living there, and then we got to move. And just a lot of moving my entire life. So.
And is that some of that stuff you just talked about? Is that some of the stuff that's included in this book?
It is.
A lot of the details of that?
I do. There's a couple of stories of some experiences I had, and then there's also a little bit about the dynamics of how we got to live in campgrounds and things like that. And then,
so you talked a bit about your life experiences and some of the stuff that's in the book. So what was it that moved you exactly to get this book published and get it written out here? Like, what was the inspiration for you to just finally go for it and to just make this happen, to share your story, talk about some of the stuff you went through, a lot of the stuff you went through, and then turning it into this book? And read the title, would you? So
the title is From Surviving to Creating a Journey of Abundance.
Okay, so what exactly moved you to actually get to this point where you started telling your story through a book?
So my story is one where I have fully been able to step into gratitude.
Okay.
And as I spoke to people about their experiences, I noticed that a lot of people were still stuck in the story of the things that had happened to them.
You mean like these were people in your life that were still stuck in the story? Okay.
Yeah, and then people I would come across, because I find that I'm often in spaces where people will just come talk to me and share with me.
Yeah.
Which I'm so grateful that people feel the energy of me to be one where they can be vulnerable and share those experiences with me. But in that, I found that so many people were just stuck.
Yeah.
And the story of the trauma of what had happened.
Okay.
And so the book is a twofold for me. One, I wanted to show that you didn't have to be stuck in your circumstance. It's an experience that I've had, many experiences that I've had, but at the end of the day, they were just that. They were challenges and stretches in my life that allowed me expansive growth.
Okay.
And I allowed myself to step into that expansive growth, and that other people can also do that. And then the other part of it was being in foster care. That is near and dear to my heart. And one of the stories I speak of in the book is I was actually here in Utah in a foster home.
Okay.
And I had been moved from California to Utah, and then eventually I went back to the California foster system as well. But while I was here, my foster parents needed a break.
Right.
And so the foster system had an opportunity for me to go on a 4-day, 3-night camping trip along the Green River.
Okay.
And in that, I didn't want to go because camping to me was hard.
Yeah.
We lived in campgrounds. We hauled water for bathing. Everything was work. None of it was fun when you're surviving in it. And so I wasn't very thrilled about going on this trip, but I got to go. It was a non-optional trip. And as I did that, we landed at this one place along the Green River that was a cabin. And whether it's true or not, the river guide said to us, it was a worn-out cabin with like a rusted silverware on the ground, and you could see life. It was a life long ago that had been there. And he said to us, well, this was Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid's hideout, one of their hideouts, and you could only get to it by the river. So it was a good hideout for them. And I thought, oh my gosh, because as a little girl, my grandpa, Cook, was raised in West and South Jordan, as they were farmers, and he was the youngest of 11 kids. And he would talk about Butch Cassidy and Sundance coming through their farm and hiding out in their barn and stuff. And at one point, when my grandpa was very young, he got some coins from one of them, and he had them clear until he passed a few years ago, and I gave them to one of my brothers. And anyway, so at that moment, I just had this overwhelming love surround me of my grandfather and those stories, and it was just kind of a full circle moment for me. So in that, I've decided to start a charity for foster children.
Wow.
So that they can get out of their circumstance for a moment and be more than what they've been given in this life, be a child. And so the foster charity will pay for trips or day adventures for foster children so that they can, like I said, step out of their circumstance for a moment and just be.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so this sounds like something that's almost like a couple thing. You've got your charity, and then you've got your book that says, here's the charity, and this is why it's so important to you, and this is what your intention is supporting people, that they also can flip the script, but they have a tool and a resource of someone who's been through that.
Yes.
They can actually flip the script too and make it so that that's not their story that they live under, and that they make the reason why their life is hard for the rest of their life. Is that, this is an opportunity. I'm supporting you so that you can flip the script like I did, and start to see the abundance, and start to make something different.
Yeah.
Was that the journey of abundance from surviving to creating?
Yes. And in each chapter, I do a section at the end of the chapter where there are questions that you can ask yourself that are pertinent to what that chapter discussed. So this one being like, think back on a time in your life when you felt powerless. It may have been a season of transition, a moment of deep loss, or a time when you were simply trying to survive. Close your eyes and picture that vision in your head. What would you say to that person today? What truth do you know now that you needed to hear back then? And then define what life can and must look like for you now, because you have the power within you to create that. And so every chapter has a reflective, 3 questions that your story may not look exactly like mine, but we all are still learning and growing, and we all have challenges. So the book can be related very much to your own path and your own journey.
So it sounds like, from what you've described, it's interesting how this is laid out, because it's your story, but it's like you're walking alongside them in your story, so that they can walk alongside you in the story, in the life that you lived, and create a new story. And it's really powerful. Personally, I haven't heard of anything quite like it, where it's your life story, and also it's like a workbook for someone who wants to get from point A to point B, and it's like you're walking alongside them in this journey.
Yes.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of anything like that personally.
Yeah, it's just a new take on. It's not really about the story, although the story of our lives is relevant.
Yeah.
And where we've come from, but it's getting stuck in that is detrimental to us. And so, can we not just briefly look at the story, and then decide the path going forward?
That's really cool.
And so there's a cave in southern Utah by Kanab.
Okay.
And it's called Belly of the Dragon.
Oh, I've been there. That's a beautiful. It's not long, obviously, but
No.
it's very beautiful.
Yes.
I've got lots of pictures from that place.
Yes, and when you're standing on one end, it's long enough that you can't see the other end.
Yeah.
It's dark inside. And there's a very skinny path that inside of the cave with boulders kind of going up on each side, and sometimes boulders in the middle of the very thin path. And essentially, I liken life to that particular cave, where it's basically a straight line of a cave, but it's just long enough that you can't see the end,
Yeah.
and just dark enough that you get to use tools to navigate it.
Right.
A flashlight, a light on your phone, whatever, headlamp, whatever that looks like. And then there are just enough obstacles in the path that you get to decide on certain portions of that how to traverse it.
Right.
And life is exactly like that. You can't necessarily see the end, and you get to use tools to get through it.
Okay.
And there's a few obstacles here and there where we get to kind of shift and mitigate a little bit of the plan that we had initially.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's just showing up, moving forward, and using tools. And that's what this book is. It's just a tool
That's what I was gonna say.
that someone can use to help mitigate and navigate that a little bit.
That is powerful. So man, I'm definitely gonna make sure I get a copy of this because I definitely want to read this. Because that sounds really powerful, and I'm excited to actually take a look through this. Not only to see your experience, your story, but to see how you navigate that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing. I wanted to ask one more question. So you said you talked about, and part of the inspiration is when you was writing this, that people would get stuck in the story. What would that look like when people would come up to you and you would start sharing your story, and you say when people would get stuck in that part of the story, what was an average kind of experience of that like?
Well, when people, if you read the book, it shows that the story is part of it because we get to be, our history makes up who we are.
Yeah.
But the first thing 99% of people say
It's a high percentage.
when they come to me is, I am so sorry. I am so sorry you experienced that. I am so sorry you had to live through that. I'm so sorry that that was your life. And really, Aaron, it's not. There's nothing to be sorry about because I am an incredible human being and I get to be that because of the experiences that I had. And so I have nothing in my space but gratitude. Gratitude for every moment of every hard thing. And it's only hard if we say it's hard.
That is powerful. I mean, you know a bit about my own personal journey. I definitely resonate a lot with that because it's so easy for people. Because most, like you said, 99% of people come up and they want to cut, and they come up and I feel like they they have to. And also, it's like this was a really hard thing you went through, and this whole flip in the script is you're celebrating the journey. It's like it was difficult, and you know the way that you're framing it is everybody has a story. And it doesn't have to be your life.
Exactly.
It can just be acknowledged as was a beautiful experience, or this was a painful experience, and this is what I'm turning it into, and I can be grateful for it. And now they have one more beautiful tool they can use to navigate this, especially people who have been through the foster care system, where they will resonate a lot more. Because I know this book is going to inspire a lot of people, and I feel like especially those people who have been through a similar story as yours, which I think is powerful, and I think that's a beautiful and perfect enough reason for anybody to share their story, and perhaps be inspired from your work to not make it their life story, but say, this was my story, and this is how you can navigate yours, and we can walk this together. and I can support you to walk through this. And this is your way of doing this. And
Yeah.
people, and anybody can do this, but this is really cool. And it takes a lot to put something like this together and to get it out there. And so that's really cool and inspiring that you did that too. So.
And the beautiful part about this is that I was able to work with an extremely talented publisher, and I was able to the support in my on my team was unbelievable. And not many people think a book is possible in 4.5 months, but it absolutely is when you have purpose, and I have tools that I can use to get through that. It's been a wild ride, but it's been a beautiful one.
So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
So remember to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Blood Wolf Art Studio. You can follow me on Facebook, also Blood Wolf Art Studio. And I'm planning to do a reading of this. I actually want to do a reading of this at some point on my channel. Sometime soon I would like to do that. So I'm going to pick up a copy soon. So you can follow along with that. And so thank you again, Robyn Maria, for coming on to my channel. And we'll see you guys on the other side.
Thank you.